everybody, welcome to another exciting Driven Hunter podcast brought to you by Mission Crossbows. Today we're joined with our good friends from Vortex. We got Sawyer Briel over there, and we got Erik Barber over here. Welcome, guys, to the Driven Hunter, podcast at the Driven headquarters.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, glad to finally get you up here to show you around Minnesota.
It is it's quite the experience you got up here. I was expecting a lot, but I don't think I was expecting this much. So It's been awesome to see it firsthand for sure.
Definitely.
And we even got some sound design here. Natural thunder in the background.
Yep. Ominous.
Got a little thunderstorm action going on. So if you see a little light flicker, guys, it's just because it's natural lighting effects that we got going on here.
Yep, absolutely.
But yeah, it's cool to have you guys. I gotta say, it's been so much of an honor to have Vortex on board and get to start using the product this year. Can't say enough about the quality. I mean, the people, just the service. You guys are awesome. So pretty pumped to continue the relationship and to move down the road with you guys. Of course, our good old friend Cody Robbins, he's always been a big Vortex supporter over the years and told me how much he liked it, and he's always wearing the swag. I mean, he's got so much Vortex. I asked him if he even owned another T-shirt, and he said, no, it's his Vortex. So we'll talk about that some more. I mean, you guys, you not only have the optic line covered, in my opinion, but you also have the best apparel in the business. So
we appreciate it. We were actually just talking to Cody last week about a shirt that he's had in his closet for like 8 years that he just keeps wearing over and over.
He and Kelsey are awesome, man. They're super fun to work with.
He probably didn't even wash. He's never even washed the shirt. It probably stinks.
That is a good point.
Yeah, he did make actually a comment pretty similar to that. So you know him well, clearly.
And he is getting older. I mean, you have to send him larger sizes every year. Getting a little more comfortable in the relationship. Pretty quick, Kelsey's gonna boot him to the door.
We got some nice stretch fabrics for Cody.
4-way stretch.
So, it'll grow with you. I guess is what I'm saying.
Can you please get him a better hat? That's all I ask, because he's always wearing these like weird hats that kids wear up there. They call them toques up there.
Pat, just to backtrack a little bit, we're super happy to be working with you guys. Obviously, we take a lot of pride in going through the process to determine who we work with. So it's never an easy process or decision on our end. A lot of thought goes into it. We get the whole team involved, and you guys have been fantastic to work with so far. So we really appreciate it. And I think the bigger thing is we're just looking forward to the future and all the cool stuff we can do with you guys.
Man, I appreciate it. I mean, you guys are really local to us too. I mean, you guys are a Wisconsin-based company. So we're all right here next to each other. Not very far. You guys just drove up today to hang out. We got, I think you'll appreciate it, but we got a little Totally Wild seasoning fish fry coming up for lunch.
Absolutely
So we're loaded up. The truck is full.
Hungry.
The truck's full.
So is our bellies.
It's this last year, later on in the season, we got the partnership all aligned and got to use some of the optics this past, winter in our late season stuff, and was really impressed by the quality of the glass and stuff and the clarity. I mean, I've looked at your line and gotten my hands on it now. We came to the SHOT Show. We got a really in-depth look at the diversity of the line, which is pretty cool. All the way from the very top-end glass, the sheep hunters, all the way down to the glass that somebody can afford at a lower budget. You guys have that whole dynamic range covered, and you don't. And some companies would maybe sacrifice quality. Even that lower end price point optics are still awesome, like high level. So just tell us a little bit about Vortex and you guys' direction, and also your philosophies, and just how Vortex has quickly climbed the optic ladder, because there's a lot of companies out there. But how you guys have built such a awesome company in such a short period of time, and what you guys stand for.
Erik, would you like to start or would you like me to start?
Take it away.
Okay. So family-owned business actually began as a Wild Birds Unlimited store, so if you're familiar with that.
Really?
Birding supplies, things like that. Then got into the optics game a little bit with Eagle Optics, and then decided to take it further in the early 2000s and kind of start Vortex, and really kind of took everything over themselves. So a couple veterans in the family, so huge support for veterans, for law enforcement, things like that. So we take a lot of pride in that. They're also pioneers on the warranty side of things. So the VIP warranty, which I think is a big part, along with the customer service and just how they treat people, with how the business was able to grow so quickly. So it's a really, really interesting story, and I think it'd be great for you guys to come down and meet the Hamiltons and kind of hear it from them, because it's so hard to distill it down into 60 seconds because it's such an interesting story. But really, I think the big thing to take away is the growth isn't by accident.
Yep.
I think it's the focus on customer service, on the warranty. They do things the right way, and just to top it all off, the products. I mean, the products are great.
Yep,
I mean, I'm not just saying that. Like, there's literally something for everyone at every price point. When you step up quality from the Crossfire line to the Razor line, we got all bases covered, which makes it easy for us as marketers, right? Because you don't have to pick a lane, because you're in every lane. You got something for everyone. So it's awesome. Yeah,
the big thing there too is, like you mentioned, the warranty. We call it the VIP warranty, and VIP is very important promise. So, that's kind of our promise to the customer, is that, we've got your back no matter what happens. And it's been cool, the stories that you see come in through social media, from letters and all that stuff. And that's not to pat ourselves on the back. That's more or less just treating people how we'd want to be treated.
Yep.
Well, that's standing behind your products and your product line. That in itself was what initially drew us to you. Not that we had products that needed warranty work. I talked to my daughter, who is the archery manager at Shields, which is one of your larger retailers that you sell a lot of optics through. And she's dealing with it on a daily basis, right? Questions from consumers, and she sees what sells and what how companies stand behind their stuff, and all that dynamics to a great product, right? And I asked her early on, because we knew we were going to be switching optics, and it was a good parting relationship. Nothing bad about my previous optic company at all. It's just they were moving out of hunting, so we had to look to a new relationship, and we wanted to make the right move with the right people, and so we kind of did our due diligence by researching and trying to figure out who was climbing the ladder and the momentum was in the right way.
Yep.
And I asked her first and foremost, and she's my daughter, who is the best optic company in your opinion? And, if she was doing a deal, who would she do it with? And she instantly didn't even think about it. She said, you got to go with Vortex. They're undoubtedly our best seller in the store. They have the best warranty program. And I'm like, wow. And it was kind of neat to hear that opinion coming from somebody that's in retail sales, right?
Yep.
And it's not just a consumer that likes your product. It's really somebody that sells your product and has to stand behind it on the retail level. So that goes a long ways. You can take that as, kind of a backsided compliment. And then we got to know you guys too. That was the other thing. We met these guys and, immediately felt comfortable. You guys weren't, we were on the same level, and you're almost like we've been partnered with you for a long period of time. You guys, and you understood our quality. You've seen who we were. We didn't have to sell you on us as much as, you're like, hey, you stand for the same quality commitment that we do on our side. So it just is a perfect match. And of course, we have a lot of partners that are friends of ours too. And they said the same thing. They said, hey, if you get a chance, I would do Vortex. So
Yeah.
pretty excited.
Yeah, and that's what, I'm sure you can weigh in on this too, but it was so cool when you guys reached out and we were able to make this connection. In this space, a lot of times you'll see it's not uncommon to get block messaging from one partner that goes to the next, and, when you're filling that void. What was cool about this was, you could tell from the get-go that you kind of had your sights set on us, and like vice versa. It wasn't one of those things where cast a wide net. You had a very specific goal, and it aligned with our goals, and here we are today.
I remember the day I was up at my desk and the phone rang, and someone had either left a message or was patching me through, and it said, "Hey, Pat Reeves on the phone. He wants to talk to you." I was like, interesting. All right. So then I got off the phone.
And I normally hate cold calling
somebody. Well,
hey,
it worked out. So that's all that matters. But I remember I sit close to Erik, and I told him, and I was like, oh, hell yeah, we're going to get this one figured out.
Yep. And that's the cool thing about, I guess that side of the business is, so much of it is relationship driven and getting to know the people on the other sides of that. So like you mentioned, that we were obviously familiar with Driven and, the digital products that you guys put out. So then to kind of put a face to the name and get that relationship started on a person-to-person level, that's one thing I think a lot of people overlook in that side of the outdoor media. Is it really is a relationship at the end of the day, and it's not just two business entities coming together. It's a personal connection.
Yeah, and the relationship has to still make sense. I mean, we can be the best of buddies.
Yep.
But if Pat Reeve ain't producing good quality content and making sense to promote your brand and your message for the trade that we have or the deal we have, then it doesn't make sense just because we're buddies. So, I mean, in this business, some deals are done on a buddy deal, but I've always maintained quality. And, if the quality suffers, don't blame me. Blame one of our cameramen or Nicole for sure.
And I mean vice versa too, because this is going to sound cheesy, so I apologize in advance, but like the VIP thing, I really try to approach it, and I know you do too, on the marketing side. Like, obviously, you're part of a business, you're running a business, but it has to be a two-way street for a partner.
Yeah.
So we really approach it that way. Obviously, we've got some levers that we can pull to help people grow their brands, but at the end of the day, the success of the partnership is really relying on you guys. So that's why it's so important to know what you bring to the table from a quality standpoint, from a relationship standpoint. And I can be best friends in the world with somebody, but if I know they can't do business, it's not going to work.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Tell us about a little bit more about your warranty program, because I think that's a big one to touch on. If somebody's thinking about buying optics right now, which we're perfect time, we're going into the fall, and a lot of hunting is in the forefront in their minds right now because of this COVID thing.
Yep.
There's a lot of people spending time in the outdoors that simply didn't have the time to spend before, and now it's showing. Like, they're fishing, they're doing a lot more outdoor recreating. There's going to be more people, which is cool, that they're going to be outside, doing more hunting than previous years. And now they're starting to think about buying, those particular hunting and that hunting equipment. And of course, optics, I'm sure, is at the top of the list, along with weaponry. Give these guys some idea on what to think about when you're buying it. Of course, include that warranty side, because that is such a huge selling point. I mean, you don't want to spend $1,000 on a pair of binoculars, and then something happens where they break or they fall or something happens to them, and you can't get anything done on them besides buying a new pair.
Yep. You hit the nail on the head right there. I mean, when you're investing in optics, you hear it all the time: buy the best glass that you can afford. So, you just use the analogy of spending $1,000 on binoculars, and when you do that, you want something that that you're going to have for a long time. And so the VIP warranty is something that is in place, to protect you as the customer. We know stuff happens. People are hard on stuff, rightfully so. And if stuff does go south, regardless of whose fault that is, if that's something, maybe you dropped it off the back of the truck, whatever, or maybe you just had some weird fluke thing happen, whatever it is, we're going to cover that. So it's kind of, the integrity is like mutually beneficial there. Regardless of whose fault it is, we've kind of got our customers back.
No matter what happens to the optics, like however they got damaged, they're still fully covered.
Yep.
That is pretty cool. That's a really cool policy.
We get some
interesting stories.
Some interesting stories.
Yeah. There's been everything from, dogs getting a hold of stuff and ripping it up to, people that have dropped their spotting scopes off a cliff. And, literally, if you can bring back a piece, like it doesn't even have to be the whole thing. If you can bring back a piece of the product, and this has happened. There was a guy that dropped a spotting scope off the side of a cliff, and he brought back just a piece of it that was able to prove, like, hey, I did have this, and this is all I've got left. We were able to cover it.
There was a guy overseas that had his optic hit by an RPG.
Yep.
Wow.
It actually, you could still see through it. It was technically still a working optic, but those are some of the cool stories.
Oh, that is really
incredible.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's cool. Is it transferable?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. That's what I heard. That's unheard of. Where, so if I sell my pair of binoculars to my buddy, and then something happens with those binoculars, my buddy now owns.
Yep.
He can that warranty is transferred to him, and he can then process it under a warranty claim.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. That's
outstanding.
We have a dealer that actually sells refurbished Vortex products, and when supply and demand is always fluctuating, so sometimes people might have a hard time finding something on the market depending on what inventory looks like. So this refurbished lineup that we steer people towards is something that we always make mention of, because even though they're getting something that is refurbished, whatever the case is, who knows? Like, we don't know the backstory behind it, but we know that it's passed inspections and is now, still protected by that warranty. So somebody can have the confidence of going out, buying that product. Even though it is refurbished, it is still covered for life, no questions asked.
That's like buying a car with a full warranty.
Exactly.
A used car.
Yep.
Yeah, and again, I think that sets you apart from other optic companies, which is something that y'all want to consider when you're out there looking at buying some new optics. So tell us, I'm sure people will be interested to hear or see what you got new coming out, and where's Vortex headed in the future and stuff like that. I'm excited about, you showed me a little sneak peek on a few items, but looks like some pretty cool stuff that you got in the go for this next year.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
You want to just riff off each other here?
Let's do it.
All right,
and one that you can talk about right now anyways.
Yeah, there are a couple that we can't. I can tell you they're awesome, but that's about it.
Yeah. So I guess it's mid-July at the time of this recording. We just launched the Diamondback 1556 binoculars a little over a month ago.
Yep.
And the cool addition there was to the Diamondback lineup, our best-selling lineup of binoculars. So we've had everything from 8s to 8 by 28s in that lineup, all the way up to 12 by 50. And obviously, long-range glassing has been something that's been increasingly popular, whether you're, spotting rounds at the range or, especially in the hunting market, those guys hunting out west. It's just a little bit easier on your eyes to get behind a pair of high-power binoculars than it is to look through a spotting scope for extended periods. Yep. So historically, our lineup has kind of stopped at the Kaibabs or the Vultures. Of our high magnified binoculars. So we brought that down into the Diamondback lineup, and actually we're able to put something out that is optically superior to our former Vultures, yet is more affordable. And now we have that Diamondback lineup, everything from the small 842s, 828s, all the way up to the 1556s. So we have something at a price point level that is going to get people, from glassing big open country out west to glassing whitetails in the hardwoods.
Nice.
Yep. So then we have the Impact 1000 rangefinder. So that was
you sent me those.
Yep.
Love those.
Yep. So that was an upgrade from the Impact 850 that we had previously. So obviously an upgrade in the ranging capabilities. So, and the cool thing about that one for people listening who may not have a rangefinder or who are looking to not spend a bunch of money on one, that's going to be your entry-level cost, and it's still going to, for all intensive purposes, whether you're a whitetail hunter or you're going out west, like it's going to get the job done for you. So that's been a super exciting launch for us, just because it's always nice to introduce people to rangefinders that maybe didn't think they needed one or hadn't used one before, and when you can kind of get them in at that price point where it's not costing them an arm and a leg and they get to try it out. Yeah. That's ideal for us.
Yep.
I was super impressed when I used that particular rangefinder this year because it's small, it's pocket size, and it's lightweight and it fits in your hand just beautifully. And we had awesome luck using it here, the past month and a couple months. Yeah. So just a great acquisition, like you said, and it's affordable.
Yeah. And we got to talk about the Razor HD LHT too. That's another one that, we're a couple months into. That one launched back in March. And so for those unfamiliar with our lineup, so Razor is our top tier optical system. Yep. Historically, we've had a Razor HD Light Hunter, LH Light Hunter, and that was a 1-inch tube diameter rifle scope. We had that in 1.5 to 8, 2 to 10, and 3 to 15. This year, we kind of took a look at that line and took feedback from people who, wanted a 30 millimeter tube, wanted exposed elevation turrets, and even some folks had a need for an illuminated reticle.
And the locking mechanism too has been.
So the cool thing there is, like, the point I'm making is, people reach out all the time and say, hey, have you guys considered doing this to your lineup? And a lot of, it's pretty stock messaging to say, hey, we'll pass along that feedback. Yeah. But that's a perfect example of feedback that we did hear from our customers. And, to your point, we added that into that rifle scope, came out with something that is perfect, whether you're, if you're the guy that wants one good rifle for, hunting whitetails in the Midwest, but then also wants to go on a high mountain hunt, and you want one great setup for that, the Razor LHT is
it's a one-stop shop.
It is. I mean, like you mentioned the locking turrets, so some folks have that hesitation around exposed elevation and windage turrets, and that, if you are hunting the hardwoods, it might get bumped. Those lock, so you have no concerns there. And then that, they have a zero stop that's super simple to set with that rev stop system. Yeah, it's perfect.
Yep. Well, I got a little quick story on those zero stop turrets. Like, we used to go on hunts back in the day, and we'd ride horses, and you'd have your turrets there, and if you slide in and out of a scabber, of course that scabber is a leather scabber, it'd grab your turrets. Yep. And you'd start dialing them. Mm-hmm. Pretty quick, you look at them like, I don't know if they're over-rotated or where they're at. Yep. You wouldn't know. So then I start putting black tape on them, and, with the zero stop, I mean, it doesn't allow for you to turn past the point of no return, so you don't know where you're at. So, yeah, that's a cool feature, but one that I can appreciate because I've been there, done that, like putting tape over them and trying to keep them locked so they didn't turn when they went in and out of a scabbard, but... Yeah, good feature. And speaking of that, mountain hunts, we got a lot in the store this year. This is going to be a crazy year for us because of all that's going on in the world. Yep. Normally we go to Canada, obviously a lot, and you guys have seen a lot of our Canadian hunts up and NWT. And so this year we're in mad scramble to go. Probably the only place we can go outside of traveling around the lower 48 here is go to Alaska. So
not a bad last resort.
Yeah.
Right. Hunted in Alaska
there are worse last options for sure.
Twist my arm.
Yeah, right.
But we're kind of in this mad scramble right now we got a month here before we actually be probably stepping on the mountain. So we talk like, hey, I'm going to need this scope for this particular. We got a new Browning that we're going to be shooting up there, and we're excited about that. So you guys kind of got a scope already figured out what we're going to shoot, and we look forward to getting it mounted on the gun and actually doing some shooting with it. But it's right around the corner, so we're pretty excited. We'll probably do sheep first. We'll be kind of on the agenda then. We're going to roll into probably our next hunt. Will most likely we might go out west early on, and then we'll be back probably not in the Yukon, but we'll be back in Alaska again, probably for moose and whatever else that we got a tag for in our pocket, maybe grizzly, maybe caribou, whatever, and then we'll be back more for elk, late September-ish and into early October. I know Nicole's going to hunt in Kentucky this year with rifle, so we're putting the optics to the test there. But optics is such, I can't stress enough, and we talk about this all the time. There's a couple things that when we go on those kind of hunts that make or break your hunt. They honestly do, and we didn't really think about that when we were grown up whitetail hunters, right? And then all of a sudden you find yourself at the top of a mountain and you've read their gear list and you kind of like, well, my stuff will work and it can't be that different. Well, let me tell you, after years of doing that, I have learned to take their advice, follow the equipment list, and try to spend, as much money as you can afford on the best quality equipment. And that's going to help you tremendously, whether it's footwear is super important. So is your weapon, obviously, and your optics. Optics generally lead you to the animal. You spend so much time glassing when you're on mountain hunts. You're not like just walking around the mountains, generally trying to stumble into an animal. You're spotting them first, then you're stalking them, and you live by your optics. And if you're in your optics for 12, 14 hours a day, you want to have really good optics and stuff that fits, and also the clarity and can withstand the elements and the ruggedness of that kind of hunt and hold up. And your guys' line, does that perfectly. So that's one of the things, though, I just got to stress. Don't want to get off on a tangent too much, but make sure you buy and spend time researching the optics, along with a few other those items before you go on those kind of hunts.
Yeah, and the great thing about Vortex too is just, everyone in that building is extremely talented, but the consumer sales team in particular, just an absolute encyclopedia of knowledge. Like 1-800, it's literally 1-800-4-Vortex. You can call and ask them any questions about optics. I don't mean to plug the line, but man, that's a good one. Those guys are so awesome. Like what rail do I put on this gun? What rings are going to work for this scope? I'm going on this hunt with this gun. What do you think? I ask him questions daily.
No joke. They had a guy call in. Once he was on he was on a hunt, and he had, I don't know what he was hunting, deer, bear, whatever, but he had something at like 300 and some odd yards. He lost his dope chart on his gun. He called in like the 1-800 number and told him what load they were using, what elevation that he thought he was at, and our consumer sales crew dialed him in, said you're going to want to dial 3.4 MRAD, whatever. Dialed in, made the shot, and connected. Like, whoa. Yeah, that is incredible.
Hey, I hope that guy in your consumer support staff got a raise that day.
Yeah.
That's an unusual call.
I hope he's getting some bear meat in the mail. That's what I really hope's happening. Yeah. But they're wild. It's literally like an encyclopedia in their brain. It's crazy. Those guys are awesome.
And like you mentioned there with optics, it's on a Western hunt, so much of it is, glassing. That's directly correlating to your overall experience of that hunt. So
it is.
If you're unsure what the right fit is for you, if you're trying to find something, I guess that's what I would fall back on. You can always feel free to give us a shout on social media. Call in, talk to somebody. We'll help you find the right fit for you, regardless of what your budget is. That's something that's always a point of concern for folks, and we're here to make you find that right fit.
Yep.
So that's kind of a good thing to hang on, I guess.
That's a great point. And you mentioned social media. You guys are super strong in the digital world. How do people follow you, or where can they see more Vortex content in the social media and the digital world?
Yeah, so we are on pretty much every social platform: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We also have a Reddit presence that is incredibly detailed. We have our own Reddit subreddit. And then, so we also have our YouTube platforms. And coming down the pipeline here at the end of August, we'll be rolling out something called Vortex Edge on Instagram. And that is going to be a really education-based platform. So if you're familiar with the Vortex Instagram page, the main Vortex Instagram, that's something where we're sharing photos from our partners, user-generated content from folks who are just sending us stuff in the field, whatever. This Vortex Edge page is going to be dedicated to your power user, folks who really want the most tips and education type content out there.
And what kind of content are we talking?
Without giving away too much, we have our new.
You knew I was going to ask you.
Yep, we have our new.
Be careful.
Everybody was thinking.
Be careful.
So we have a new facility. One of the things that we really
we don't want to go down that road too much, but it's going to be really cool though.
Yeah, but we do, and we can talk about it a little bit.
Yeah,
so we have
for
we have our new in-house range set up and ready to roll out. It's actually just finishing up being built. We have an indoor 100-yard range. We have an indoor 50, and now we're adding to that an indoor 25-yard range, indoor virtual reality system for training military, law enforcement, SWAT, all that stuff, and a live fire indoor shoot house. So with all of that stuff, I mean, I think it is the second largest indoor shooting range in the United States.
I've heard so much about it. You guys are like, you need to come down.
Yeah.
But I've really heard it's cool to go
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. So if you're looking for behind the scenes content of that stuff, we have some awesome stuff in store, and it's getting ready to drop roughly late August.
Yeah, and for folks who may not be familiar with what a shoot house is, you're essentially setting up rooms to simulate walkthroughs, move-throughs, and things like that. So very relevant
Like
for
tactical law enforcement. type of
Absolutely.
basis.
So really establishing Vortex Edge as a training resource for obviously everyone, whether you're a new gun owner with everything going on, you've had a gun forever, you're just looking to sharpen up a little bit, and then for the power users, your law enforcement, your military, just looking to be that resource for people, I think is really going to be awesome.
And that brings up a really good point, like the new gun owner thing. I mean, right now, here we are, July, summer of 2020, when COVID-19 has been a thing.
Yep.
So we've seen demand in the ammunition, firearms, and optics world go through the roof. So we have more new gun owners than we've ever had.
Yeah.
So stuff.
And I'm sure some listening right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, folks like myself included, I've been, a lifelong hunter, and I've never really felt like, oh man, maybe I need to, invest in something like an AR for like home defense practices. Yeah. And now I think a lot of folks are kind of maybe changing their mindset on that. And help people feel comfortable with that equipment. That's kind of the goal of stuff like Vortex Edge and some of these resources.
Well, you're a hunter. You're just not uneducated in self-defense and what you really would need in that particular situation. And I'm the same way.
Yep.
But everybody, this is such a crazy world and such a crazy time we're living in, is now starting to think that way. And more, they're in protection mode of their family and important items in their lives. So you can't blame everybody, and everybody's it's great for obviously for our industry as a whole, because we're prospering in a kind of not a recession but a declining time in the economy. But like even I talked about in the beginning of the podcast, it's cool because more people are recreating. Like, for example, I talking to the guys over at Polaris the other day, and they said they are selling more units on a day-to-day basis. They cannot make enough of them simply because people are outside now. They're not caught up in that busy lifestyle that they were. Now they're forced to like, hey, we're at home. What are we going to do to, stay socially distanced from everything? Let's go on a four-wheeler ride.
Right.
Yep.
So they go buy a four-wheeler, or they go buy a boat, or they go buy hunting equipment or fishing equipment.
Yep.
So it's actually brought people to the outdoors, which, I mean, it's bad that we're dealing with COVID, but on the flip side of it, the positive side, it is getting more people into our sport, which is pretty cool.
And not to go down a rabbit hole, and we could talk about this all day, but the other implication on the hunting side of things is the Pittman Robertson Fund, and just kind of more money going to that fund with more people buying firearms, ammunition. So even if you just like to hunt and aren't on that tactical home defense Vortex Edge side of things, you need to recognize the effect that those gun owners have on conservation. If you like to hunt, it's directly tied. Wildlife conservation it's all tied together.
Yeah, which is cool and a great point. Just another way to support, our great resources out there. The Pittman Robertson Fund. Sure, it is unbelievable, and I've seen the benefit myself as a sportsman over the years of that exact thing. So yeah, anything else, guys, you want to talk about? I know we've been kind of rambling here and there about things. But it's really cool to hear about the new stuff you got coming out, how people can get in touch with you or watch the more Vortex digital sides of things. What's your website again?
VortexOptics.com.
Yep.
Simple as that.
Pretty darn easy.
Yep.
http:// if you're feeling crazy, you can throw that in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nowadays you just search engine just Vortex and
Yep.
you'll find it. Yeah, it's crazy how that works, but yeah,
I mean,
all part of it.
Other than that, I think stay on the lookout for more stuff. Spoiler alert, end of July we have something really cool set to release. And then going into the latter part of 2020, early 21, we have some other really cool stuff on the docket.
You guys keep pushing the bar, and that's why Nicole and I are so privileged to be a part of it. Is just the progression and the direction of Vortex is taking. It's pretty cool. I've seen Matthews do that a long time ago.
Yep.
And
it's good company to be in.
Set the bar, and on the optics side of it, you guys are doing the same thing. So we're honored really, and glad to have you come up to the Driven headquarters and hang out for a couple days.
It.
And
hey, if you keep frying fish, we'll keep making the drive.
Yeah, man, you got a deal, and we'll be coming down there and check out your facility.
Absolutely.
I'm pretty excited. So yeah, well, there you have it for another Driven Hunter podcast, and we'll be back with more exciting stuff. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Pat.